You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA, as well as the Power Chord Hour podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube, however you were checking this one out, thank you so much for checking it out. I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, here with you today. And returning guest we have with us, making his third appearance. I am very excited for this one. I was thinking about it. I was like, how long has it been? I think it has almost been 3 years since he's been on. I think it's been I think it was January of 2022.
And that's when Janet and I appeared with you?
Yeah, 1913. Wow. That's what I mean. I thought it wasn't that long ago, but we have Mr. Victor DeLorenzo with us.
Wow, that's a surprise, Anthony. I thought it was I didn't realize that it was that long ago.
Neither did I, but actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaking this, I think you were both the first. I think you were the first guests of 2022 as well. So there, right at the beginning of January. So yeah, almost 3 years, Victor. I'm very happy to have you back.
Boy, I'm happy that we didn't bring down your ratings or anything by appearing. But,
you know what? 2 months after we did the interview, I got a job at a radio station. So I don't know. Maybe you helped me. Helped me, actually.
Good. Yeah, well, we got to help our radio brethren because, I started out on radio.
I forget about that. I always remember, obviously, we talk about the acting, we talk about the music, but I forget the radio part. And I think we have talked about that a little bit.
I think we have. Just roughly, I'll go over it for you fast. Oh, yeah. But when I was in high school, my high school, St. Catherine's High School in Racine, Wisconsin, had a junior achievement program. So you could find out possibly what your calling might be in life by experimenting with these different kinds of things that you could become involved with. And one of the opportunities that was offered was to be a radio disc jockey. So there was a station in Racine, Wisconsin called WRAC, an AM radio station. And they had the connection with my high school as far as getting someone in there as a guest disc jockey. So I didn't have regular times all during the days, but I had a show on Sunday nights, a junior achievement hour or something they called it. And it was fun because I got to play the music I wanted to play. And then also they had a small production studio in the radio station where they did commercials. So I would take it over and my cousin and I would go in there and we'd do like little 2-minute radio sketches, little plays.
Oh, and nice.
We broadcast them too. So that was an early introduction to me of technology and show business. So that was fun. I love radio.
Now, you were already playing music by that point, right? You were already a musician before the radio.
Yes, I was playing with friends of mine, and then also I was taking different lessons, whether it be lessons in drum instruction or piano. I was studying a little bit at that time as well.
No, nice. I forget the radio side. You have quite a bit. There's a lot to talk to, actually, because that's the other thing. We're talking new music. We're also talking film this time. We're talking a movie. We're talking a movie, too. So we have a lot. I guess for people who don't know, new Night Crickets record out now, How It Ends. Very, very good record, I got to say. Congrats on the new album. And also Mary for the Block. You're working on a new film right now, Mary for the Block. So we got a lot to get into.
Now, it's my first film, Mary for the Block. I wrote the screenplay in one very heady situation where I sat down at this computer I'm talking to you on right now, and I had a little glass of scotch, and I had an idea in my head, and I sat for 12 hours, and I pounded out the screenplay, start to finish, and I haven't changed a thing since. And that's the exact screenplay that we shot in October 11th, 12th, and 13th. And now I'm in the process of editing the film and doing music design and also sound design and color correction and all the great things that you get into in post-production.
Have you done all that side, like the production side, that post-production stuff? Is any of that new to you? Like, have you worked with sound design and things like that?
It's brand new to me. I had some experience with it, but not at this level. But fortunately, the editor I'm working with is a very fine editor. Her name is Simone Safian. And I worked with her in a movie I did last year that was directed by my friend Eric Engelbart, who's also directed this movie of mine. So I've had a little bit of experience through that movie. And then I've done a few other movies in my career and some television stuff. So I know a little bit about the technical side, but I'm hoping to learn a lot more by going through this experience now.
And then you said you're on the screen too, right? Like you're in the film as well. You're not just doing the behind the scenes. You're also in it, right?
Yes. The film, Anthony, is a fictionalized version of a point in my life, but it has a lot more lies.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this. What is that weird doing because like you said, I mean, it's not your, obviously you've acted and stuff before, you've done film and television, theater and all that. But I mean, when you're wearing all these hats, it sounds like you're in every facet of it. I mean, how's that experience like doing that for the first time? To me, that sounds very overwhelming.
Oh, Anthony, I loved it because I measured up in some ways, certain ways, it's very much akin to working as a producer, working on a music project. So I'm used to helping organize the material, recording the material, and then getting into the editing and the mixing and the mastering. So I'm almost just shifting all that information over to the film world, and I'm finding out how what I do in the music world transfers to the film world. And I find that there's a lot of similarities, but there are, of course, some very obvious differences where you're dealing with sound and vision. But I love it, and I'm learning as much as I can, and I'm just happy that I was fortunate enough to be able to hire a lot of good people, cinematographer, sound recordist, lighting director, location, I mean, all those different people. I mean, it's a real movie. It's only a short, though. It's not a full-length feature.
Oh, nice. Now, what's kind of your plan once it is finished? I mean, what's the plan after that for like release and all that? Do you kind of know that yet? Is that still in the working
well, I hope
stages?
Every last person in the world sees it, but
nice.
I think what I want to do is get it finished so I can submit it to film festivals.
Oh, nice.
And going from there, I'm not exactly sure. I know some people in the business, in the movie business, that I'm going to be contacting and showing the film to once it's finished. And hopefully I'll be able to put my head together with some of these people and ask them the right questions.
I think we've probably talked about this before with you, just because, again, you wearing so many hats creatively, but does that still kind of... Well, no, normally you have that creative hat on. You have a big... Put on the creative cap. Yeah. That's exactly the hat I think of when the creative hat. You have the creative cap on now, Victor.
Wait.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, that rules. That is I stand corrected. That's the creative cap. That right there is the creative cap. Each little square there is each little project and thing you do. One's drumming, one's improv, one's screenwriting.
Yes, I got to connect the dots.
Well, when you're wearing said creative cap there, do you still try to, like, again, I believe we've talked about this, but like keeping things fresh for you, like, because again, you don't stay in one lane. Do you still try to actively, like that, like the fact that you're now for the first time being on that other side of the camera and doing that and stuff? I mean, do you try to actively find new things to keep creativity fresh or do different things? Like, is that an active thought in your head, or no, not really, it just kind of happens?
Well, I think I've always been the kind of a person that's going towards something rather than just being happy where I'm at. So I have a lot of goals in mind, and I always have. But in regards to the movie, last year I did this movie with the director I just mentioned before, Eric Engelbart, a movie that he wrote called Floodgates, and I played a character in that film, and that whetted my appetite, to tell you the truth. And then I started talking to Eric about, would you be interested in maybe working on a movie with me that we would write together? And he said, that sounds like that would be a lot of fun, Victor. Why don't you get an idea together and then let's talk about it and we'll go from there. So I did exactly that. And then it got to the point where we were thinking about writing. And I said, okay, here's a scene outline. I had the scenes outlined. There was 9 scenes in the film. And I said, why don't you write scene number 5? See what you can come up with for those characters. So he took a couple days and then sent me what he had written. And even though I liked what he wrote, I didn't feel it was in the voice that I wanted it to be in regards to the film. And I also thought that maybe splitting the writing up might dilute the writing in some way. I mean, these were just questions I had for myself, and I started talking to him about them. And he said, well, listen, I think there's a great solution. And that solution is, why don't you write the whole damn thing? So I said, okay, all right, that sounds like a solution. I'll try it. Let's see what happens. And then, like I told you, I sat here at this computer. I had a glass of scotch. And then for 12 years, I was in a weird kind of I don't know what. I was in a creative upheaval in my mind. And just this diarrhea of ideas and words came out. And then, like I said, 12 hours later, I had this screenplay, and I sent it to Eric, and he loved it. And then just to make sure that I was thinking correctly about all this and I could trust myself, I sent it to some other people that I really respected, some filmmakers and some actors and some writers. And everybody came back with really wonderful responses to me. So I decided to go ahead and just film the screenplay as is and not try to make any changes. But in the editing process, of course, if something comes up as a problem, you're gonna address it. But right now, I'm just really happy to get in. I start this Wednesday, start editing. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's a long answer. Hopefully I answered your question.
Oh, no, you did. And you kind of had me thinking of something, which I understand this is your first screenplay. So, I mean, I don't know how much of an opinion you have on it, but like with you talking about that and like having other people coming in versus doing it yourself, do you think screenplay writing for the most part is maybe less collaborative than like, say, I don't know, like if you're writing songs and stuff, maybe collaboration works more, but do you think in any way, like with screenplay, I could see where it's not I shouldn't say it's not a full thought and idea, but like if you have one person doing it, it's that same conscious, it's coming from the same place the entire film. Whereas if you start having different people writing bits and pieces, the DNA and stuff gets a little mixed up where like this guy wrote the first 15 minutes, then this guy wrote 50 minutes in. Like I realize you only have one under your belt, but like so far, do you feel like screenplay writing is maybe a little less collaborative of an art form or, you know?
I think it could be handled a myriad of different ways. I think just for this particular film, that's the way it turned out. But we're already thinking about a new film. And I think for that one, we are really going to concentrate on collaborating as far as the writing goes. And who knows, that might change again. But I'm looking forward to that experience. I want to write in collaboration with someone. And Eric's a very perceptive person. I mean, he's so perceptive that he said to me, he gave me the green light and said, why don't you just write it and let's go from there. So he was intelligent enough to suggest that. So I really respond to all his criticism and all his suggestions, which I'm very happy about because I feel like I have a kindred spirit or someone that I can hide with, you know.
Nice. Actually, that film you did with him last year, is that available like anywhere, like for people to kind of go check out?
You can watch it online. It's called Floodgates.
Floodgates? Yeah, go check that out. You got to go check that out. Well, I mean, we'll talk more about that too. Let's get into a little music as well, though. I mean, new Night Crickets record. I've been looking forward to this. I mean, as I think I've told you,
I know you have.
The first record was great. One of my favorites of 2022. Great follow-up again. I feel like all the things I like, it's different from the first one, but all the things I liked from the first album, you guys brought to this second one. When did work kind of begin on this? Like when was the initial, you know, like how long back after the first record were the three of you like, okay, like this worked, let's do it again?
Right after we made a deal for the first record with my friend Cheryl Powalski at Omnivore Recordings, literally we made the deal, and then probably the next day or a couple days after, we just started writing new material and sending it back and forth again. It's almost like it's some kind of an addiction. In fact, the other day I even mentioned to the guys, I think we should start writing the third one now.
You just don't stop.
Well, it's fun because it's such a great exercise for the three of us. We really love it in that we've all written with other people before, and of course been in a bunch of different bands, but this is the first time where I feel like it's really truly a band in a real pure collaborative sense. I would say maybe at the beginning of Violent Femmes it was that way, but then it kind of, as we progressed, the interior design started to rot away. But now with Night Crickets, I found that in the 2 records that we've done, it's just getting stronger and stronger, our relationship. And there's even maybe something planned for next year that you might even see us live. I don't know.
I mean, that was definitely going to be one of the questions. I definitely was wondering, because you guys have never played live, right? So far,
No.
You're a studio project.
Right. But we don't, that's one thing we never use, that word project.
Or not project, band.
Because we call it a band, because it really is a band.
I like that. Because, when you, was it, I guess I'll ask this too, like, did you from the get-go feel like it was a band, or do you feel like it transformed from project to band?
Well, let me say that I hoped it would maybe turn into a band, but when we were first starting out, we didn't even know if we'd get past the first songwriting experiment, but we certainly did, and then it was just full speed ahead from there. And like I said, I think we're gearing up to write the 3rd one now. It's so much fun because there's no animosity, there's no aggression. It's just real pure collaborative ecstasy. It's really fun.
So this one was pretty much the second record. You had kind of that same, like you were saying, sending ideas back and forth, collaborating that way. So like, was the songwriting process and all that pretty much similar to the first record? Was that process pretty much the same?
Exactly the same. And what we found out in the recording, or writing, I should say, of the first record, anything goes. We didn't try to put any limits on ourselves. And if a problem did arise as far as instrumentation, I shouldn't even say problem, but if we had a discussion about instrumentation that was going to be used, or maybe we were looking for a title of a particular piece so we could start writing it. Because a lot of times I would just say, "Hey, David, here's a title." And he'd go, "Oh, thank you." And then he'd just write write a piece. And that's kind of the way it's been going, is that we just suggest things to each other. And it's not like, "Did you do your homework?" I mean, you don't have to ask anybody to do their homework. It just happens.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long was kind of the, like, before you go in and recording? I mean, how long was that, like, back and forth writing? I mean, was that all within, like, you guys sending things back and forth for a couple months, then you get in? Was this kind of like, because it's been a couple years between albums, was this kind of like a multi-year thing? Was it all done in kind of a little sitting? How'd that all work?
It was a period of months. I can't exactly remember how many months it was, because it wasn't as though we were diving into every day working on it, because we have other lives, so we were doing other things. But I think what usually would be the case would be we'd get some information, one of us, from one of the others, and then we would just start thinking about it, and then start putting ideas, and then start broadcasting the ideas back and forth between the West Coast and the Midwest. And then we would just start going from there. So maybe sometimes we would have more than one song going at the same time. Other times maybe we're just concentrating on one song that was a little bit hard to crack the interior world of it. There's one song on the new album called "Should Be Heaven." And that particular song, that was another thing. I was talking to David about something, and he mentioned some critique about something, and I said, "Wow, considering all that, it should be heaven." And he went, "Okay, that's a title." So then he went and he wrote the song, or the lyric, I should say, and then I sent a drum part, and then we just built everything on top of his lyric and the drum part. And then we had a problem, Anthony, where it was all recorded, but we couldn't get a mix that we liked, and poor Darwin kept mixing and remixing, and he was ready to kill us because we just couldn't get it. We weren't getting it how we were hearing it. So finally I made a suggestion. I said, "Listen, my son is there in Los Angeles. David, why don't you go over there to his studio, and why don't you try and mix it with him and see what you guys come up with?" Because my son's a real great producer and mixer. Nice. So David went over there, and he was so inspired by what Mal started doing that he wrote a completely different bass part on the spot, recorded it, and then they mixed it, and that's what you hear now. I mean, and it just blossomed from there, and now we love it. And a lot of people are picking that song as like a single or something, that they really love that song.
Oh, that is no, the whole thing works so well. Yeah. I've told you this before. I think one of the biggest compliments I can give is that I don't feel like there's a Night Cricket sound per se, but they're like all the songs weave very well together. They're coherent albums. The sequencing on both records work really well, but I don't feel like it's not rehashing. Like, let's say, like, I don't know, everything sounds like just a straight up indie rock song or like a pop rock song or something. Right. Is that something that you feel like you guys consciously think of, or is that just what comes out of you when the three of you play? Like, is that a thought like, I guess I'm trying to think of the best way to put it into words, but again, coherent ideas where the songs work together, but at the same time, we're not trying to have a distinct, this is what a Night Cricket song sounds like. Right. You know?
Well, I think, let's see, an easy answer would be to say that we're old people. And we're trying to address our desires and our hopes still for ourselves, and how that translates through the music that we make. So I never feel restricted by any time period, or if I'm trying to emulate somewhere or another. I mean, most of the time would be I'm trying to emulate the Beatles, but when I'm writing my own stuff, of course those influences drip into what I'm doing, but I never consciously sit down and think I'm going to write about something with this particular slant. I mean, I have done that when I did a lot of commercial work when I was writing jingles and stuff, because they'd say, can you make it sound like this? And I go, oh, okay, I can try and do that. But for our music, it's wide open. There's no restrictions. The only restrictions we have are just what the other two people may comment about. But that's welcome. We like comments. So.
Well, how about the sequencing side of things? Because again, like with everything flowing so well, was this record and the first one, I mean, were they easy to sequence, or did that take some time? Because that's another thing. People don't think of that as an art form, but sequencing is extremely important for a record.
Especially when you're designing it as an actual album, not just a collection of singles.
Oh, yeah.
So the guys let me sequence both the albums. They think I have a knack for doing that. And I used to do that, too, for a lot of different records I would work on. And a lot of the Femmes records, too, I sequenced.
You have a good, I don't know, is there any, this is kind of a weird, maybe this is getting too dissecting sequencing, but is there anything in your head that kind of, I know they're generalizations, but like what makes a good sequenced record? Is there anything in terms of what you think, this is what makes a good album opener, this is what makes a good closer, this is how it should be, you know, around? Because even though albums I know aren't always side A, side B, I always think of albums spiritually too, like there's a side A and side B. I don't care if it's on vinyl or not. If it's a 12-song record, I think there's a start and end of each side. Like, well, again,
Anthony, I think that way of thinking went out in my mind when the CD was introduced, because I love obviously the CDs now, the quality is so much more improved, because if I ever want to do any clinical listening, I listen to a CD. Because really? you get the extension, you know, of the frequencies up above and below that vinyl can't handle some of those. But I would have to say that I don't know. I figured that the sequence was very important, just as the lining of the scenes in a film or a play are very important. You have to, first of all, figure out what you want to get across by the sequence. And because it is a full album that I'm putting together, I'm not thinking in side A and side B. I'm thinking of 1 through 10 or whatever it is. So, of course, what comes into play is lyrical content, the cadence of what's being said, the chord structures, the melodies, all that stuff figures in when I'm putting the sequence together.
No, you did on this record. I mean, how well, I'm blanking on the name of the first song, but it's a great album opener. I mean, was that pretty easy to decide on, or did that take any time? Because I feel like that was a great mood setter. That sets the mood very well for the record.
Yeah, Red Mist, White Knuckle. Yeah.
Yes. It's a great album opener.
I thought that would be a really good one, because I loved all the performances on that, I liked David's vocal to introduce the album too, because, and I've said this before, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a fellow with a British accent in your band.
It adds, you know what? I'm with you. It adds something to it. I'm not like that accent adds something to it. I don't know that I can put it into words, but it honestly does. I'm 100% with you, Victor. What would you know, this is kind of asking you to like look, I guess, inward at the band and also pat yourself on the back a little bit. But what is it that you think when you put the three of you together that you work so well? Like, what is it when you put you, Darwin, and David and you start writing together? We have 2 records that prove this, that you can write very well together. Like, what is it that you think just makes it all work well? Because it is easy to go and you can't just go in a room with 2 people or collaborate virtually with 2 people and like just make it work. You can't force that, so it has to naturally work. Like, what do you think works between you 3?
I think what has come to be the real strong suit of us working together is naturally we have the same temperament when it comes to seriousness and humor. So our combinations of those 2 things are amazing in that there's so many things about what we feel and what we hold dear to ourselves that translate between the 3 of us that we never would have known before. I mean, there's no way to really tell that unless you begin and cultivate a relationship with someone. But that's something that we have found is that we can be very, like you hear on the record too, it can be very serious and it can be also a little bit wacky or silly at times.
Do you think that's important for a band? Because I gotta say, I've noticed this as I get older. I think my favorite bands can do that, where I think of a band as always dark or serious, or they're always too lighthearted. I mean, life's not like that. I think it's more of a representation of life or art, where it's like you can go from one song to the other on the same album, and one's almost kind of fun, maybe you smile a little, and then the next like makes you think, or like maybe it's a tearjerker or something. But I think that dynamic, I think that balance is so important. I mean, do you feel like you try to think of that with I don't know, bands or writing and stuff?
It's funny because what you're just saying too kind of translates to this film that I'm putting together. In that when people really get serious with me and they say, okay, what is it really about and what are you trying to get across? And I say, well, I don't really want to go into what it's about because I'd like the audience to figure that out. But I can tell you that my inspiration in putting the film together is part David Lynch and part Mel Brooks. Now, as you know, though, Mel Brooks financed The Elephant Man. And picked David Lynch to direct it.
I did not know that.
So they have worked together. But those 2 sensibilities really hit me. So there can be something very serious and very otherworldly, and then there can be physical comedy or silliness, like Mel Brooks. And that's what interested me as far as what is this movie going to say for me? So if it's successful, this is what it has to do for me.
No, I feel, and you're right. I think you can apply it, not just your film, but I mean, like just film or art in general. You do. I think you need that. I mean, sometimes you want to feel a certain way, but I like that more. I don't know, on a day-to-day basis, you don't feel just one emotion. You feel different things. I'd like the art to kind of, show that as well. So I definitely agree with you there.
Thank you.
But with the new record, we were talking a little earlier where you were teasing maybe we'll see you guys play a little bit next year. With that idea of being a band that hasn't performed live yet, are there any songs on the new Night Crickets record that you've kind of went, if we go play a show, this has to be in the set list? Are there any songs you go, this is going to translate well live? Do any you can actually pick off the first record too? Are there any Night Cricket songs in general where you go, man, that would sound so good live. That would work very well in the live setting.
Yeah, or also the opportunity to maybe cover some songs by either, who knows, some of our other bands that we're associated with. But
oh, nice.
You never know. I mean, we haven't really gotten to that point yet to seriously discuss that. But we have gotten over the hurdle of possibly making some kind of an appearance next year. I don't know if it would be for a tour. Maybe it would be a special event. Not exactly sure right now, but yeah, that is a teaser in that we have been talking about that a little bit more seriously because at first when we brought it up, we were all so busy. And at that time, David was still doing work with oh my God, not only Love and Rockets, but also Bauhaus. But then both of those tours kind of blew up on him. So I don't know, maybe he thinks he might have a better chance playing some live music with us. I don't know.
Get some night. That also brings up something with you. I mean, I know you still play live and stuff. I mean, you still do all that, but for you, like current day, do you still have any, like, is there any part of you that would still like to do, like, would you go get in a bus and go tour? Would you still go do long tours and stuff? Or is that side of you kind of, would you rather just do runs and maybe weekends and stuff like that? Or could you see yourself doing like a 3-month tour in a bus? I mean, we'll say a bus. It doesn't have to be a small van or anything, but still doing that kind of road life. Do you think you'd still have any interest in that?
Well, I'm not opposed to that. The money would have to be right. But, and of course, the people I'm playing with would have to be something that is appetizing for me. But right now, to tell you the honest to God truth, Anthony, it's almost, now that I've opened up this cavern into the world of film, I'm really thinking a lot about it. And it's almost I'm getting ready to make a transition to just try and be a filmmaker now. Ooh. And not that I'm going to stop playing music, but I'm thinking my focus going forward is going to be a little bit more film centric, I think.
Do you feel like for doing so many different things and kind of talking about the creative hat again, let's say, when you do it, do you feel like there's like, yes, like, is there X amount that you feel you can do at one time, in the sense of, if you're doing if you're writing a new screenplay, like maybe you can do music, but that means you can't do 5 other things. Like, do you think there's a limit on creativity in that sense in a sitting where, like, you only have so many things you can work on at one time before you're going to, like, I guess creatively just burn out very quick? Well,
a big part of trying to regulate that creativity is scheduling. And in my world, I've always had the knack to be able to schedule things and try and find time to do all the different things that I want to do. Sometimes life interjects its ugly head, but I try to be prepared, and I carry that over into everything that I do. It's getting back to what I was talking about before. Did you do your homework? People don't have to ask me to do my homework. I do my homework.
It's a good way to be. Definitely a good way to be. For getting to like the acting sides more, going back to Mary for the Block. Talking about actually being in a film versus like doing theater or improv, like how different is that if you're acting on stage in front of an audience versus obviously acting in front of a camera and obviously pre-recording it where it's not live and all that? I mean, are they drastically different? Are they pretty much the same thing? Where does that kind of lie, the two different sides of that?
Well, I've heard it described that film is a cold medium and theater is a warm medium, meaning that you have a direct interaction relationship with a live audience that you're not going to have when you're on set working on a film, because you may get comments from the director, the producer, or other actors, but the camera's not going to tell you anything. I mean, when you see what the camera has seen, that tells you something. But when you're on the stage and you're playing in front of a live audience, if you deliver a line, you can hear the audience laughing or gasping or whatever the reaction might be, and you take that into account in your performance. And that's something that I love. I'll never get tired of that. But at the same time, I'm crazy in that I love that cold medium of film or television where you can do things over and also you can try different versions of it. That really excites me. So the do or die on stage, or let's try it another time on film. I mean, I love both of those things.
Did you have to learn it all? Because if I'm thinking of this correctly, you probably did obviously like improv theater and stuff like that before being on screen, right? You probably did theater before you did. So, I mean, in the beginning, that what you're talking about, when you're not getting that instant, like from an audience being able to kind of read that, how things are going, did you have to kind of learn how to, I guess, mentally be in your head more when you're recording a scene to be like, okay, I don't have this audience here in front of me to be cheering me on, or like you said, they applaud or gasp or whatever. Was that weird at all, that transition? Did you have to learn that or not really?
No, not really, because if I'm prepared, I can perform in front of a camera, a live audience, or a broom. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can just perform because I'm prepared. Sometimes, say in the film world, maybe you're going to go through extreme circumstances where it's an insane set that you have to perform on. That's maybe a little bit dangerous or what have you. And stuff like that, you don't really run into that as much in theater, of course. But that's something to be addressed and something that you have to worry about as an actor. But the main thing I find rewarding is just the collaborative ideas behind theater and film and television. If you're with the right people, it's the best job in the world.
Is that pretty much the same? Because I know we're talking about the, theater versus doing film, but I mean, I guess you can also apply that. I mean, music as well, playing a live show versus you being in the studio with a few guys and just kind of working back and forth and not having that. It's the same. Like I talk about this a lot. And maybe we've talked about this, but the idea too, where how much you can tell if a song's actually going to work live or not before you have an audience. Like even things like that, where you don't have the audience in front of you. How much can you gauge if this is a fan favorite or if this is going to go over well live? Like that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, you prepare something to expose an audience to, and then once you start getting reactions, then you figure out how you want to maybe modify the presentation. Because you're right. You don't know how they're going to react until they react. And what you can do to the best of your collective abilities is just put your mindset behind wanting to present something that we think is really good. And hopefully that's what the audience gets from it as well, is that they're being given something that's of a quality that we've all approved.
And it does. It sounds like you kind of said it too with the film and theater, but I mean, it doesn't sound like you have a preference of one or the other. It sounds like you can appreciate both sides of it. You can enjoy the audience in front of you, that interaction, but you can also enjoy, let's work on this and then we'll give the product later, the pre-recording, whether it be film, whether it be music. It seems like you're not so much either. I just prefer one over the other. You seem like you appreciate both.
Yes.
With
I tell you, at heart, as a performer, I am filled up with a lot of ham or prosciutto, maybe.
with the drumming side of things, for you with your style throughout the years, when you listen to yourself playing, do you feel like your drumming style has changed a lot throughout the years? Do you feel like your drumming style throughout the decades, like you have a style that you've kind of continued working on and I guess building off through the years? Or do you hear a difference? If you listen to stuff you recorded in the 90s versus the 80s versus the 2000s, do you hear a big drastic difference? Or do you go, that's Victor DeLorenzo?
I certainly hear a difference in my technique. And as you get older, you do things to supplement your technique. But I'd have to say that one of the talents I was given at the start, especially working with, even before the Femmes, was that if I was working as a drummer, I could always come up with parts. It just, I don't know why, I just didn't have any problems with it. And I know some people go through the ringer trying to get the right beat for a song or what have you, but I've just really been lucky that I've been able to hear it. And that's probably because from the very start, I loved all kinds of music, but also I play other instruments besides percussion instruments. So I have that to draw from as well. But yeah, I love that aspect of it, of having to come up with something. And when you work with people like Brian and Gordon, I mean, they want something right away. And I'm that way too, as if you're working with something like, come on, can't you come up with something? Let's get something. And luckily the three of us were always well equipped to respond to that urgency. And I think that's what yielded such great songs, not only Gordon's material that he presented, but also Brian and I knew how to arrange it, because that was our job. Was to arrange it. Not only if we would change around the structure of the piece that Gordon presented, but if we would suggest certain instrumentation that maybe he hadn't thought of.
Do you kind of prefer that idea? Because I kind of attach them to each other, where like that working on the spot, that doing it right away, like I kind of feel like that's working under pressure. Do you feel like you work well under pressure? Because I feel like I'm that way. I think my product, whatever I'm doing, I think it's better if it's more on the spot and instant than if I have months and months to think about it and work it out and stuff. I mean, and maybe they're not attached.
Yeah, well, I don't really think of it as pressure. I think of it more as desire.
That's a better way to look at it.
I have the desire to do a good job, and I always have, no matter what I was doing, and that was something that I got from my parents. But pressure, of course, you can feel pressure or stress, but the way to handle it is to really keep your nose to the grindstone and really value the work over everything else.
That makes sense. I guess that's the other thing too, is it might make it easier if you can get in those situations, including if you're going to do it a lot, and not be pressured. Just go, this is how we do it. To not feel pressure if you start just, let me write the drum part on the spot, or like, hey guys, I need 3 weeks to come up with what I'm going to do on the snare in this bridge. Like, no, like you got to come up with it now, kind of thing. But I like that. Right. I guess that's a better way to look at it. I always call it working under pressure, but I like yours better. You have a desire.
I found that sometimes immediate ideas can work really well, and sometimes studied ideas that you have to take some time with can be just as effective. It's learning how to differentiate between the two and figuring out when you really have something.
Do you think you can? Is that something you feel like you can work on more than you're either one or the other? Like, I guess creatively too, do you feel like somebody can figure that out where they can work on the spot like that, but also they can fine tune something to be really good? Or do you think that one, in some ways, I feel like people fall into one or the other, but that's interesting. I guess I do think you can work your way into doing both, but I guess generally speaking, do you think people are either one or the other and can't? Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a weird question.
Really. But I would say that everybody has a different approach to it. Building something. Or as Tom Waits said, what's he building in there?
Yeah, great song.
Don't you? And it was just Tom's birthday. You know the story about Tom, that he almost produced our second album.
No, I did not know this.
Could you imagine Tom Waits producing Hallowed Ground?
Oh, that would have been so good.
That would have been incredible. But anyway, happy birthday, Tom.
To a legend.
Yes. But, oh boy. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe you could form the question a little better.
I'm trying to, I guess what I'm asking is, and I feel like I know the answer because I guess you kind of said in there, but with the idea of can that be learned? Can you become, because I feel like some people either work instantly, they can work in that live, just right away, the kind of improv way. And then some people need time. They can't just on the spot. You can't just hand them a guitar and go, hey, start noodling around and write something. A lot of times I feel like you're one or the other. But it sounds like you think you can kind of learn to be both. You can be that person who, I can write something good if you give me 4 months, but also if you give me 4 minutes, I can write something. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any more sense.
I think for me, it's very easy to learn. Take some time and dedication, but I would say that forgetting is a lot harder to do away with something that maybe at one time you thought was a good idea. It's another, I was thinking about this line I came up with the other day that depression is free, but it costs a lot. And I kind of put heavy. I put that in my mind as there's a way to deal with it, because everybody goes through stress and depression in their lives, but I'm fortunate to kind of answer your question in a roundabout way. I'm fortunate that I have this opportunity that I can work with creative people that love to collaborate. And that way it kind of takes you out of your own life for a while and affords you happiness and calmness and satisfaction that I think you need. You need that from other people.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. What about, now we're you're a busy man right now. We got new music. You're working on a upcoming film. I mean, is film what you think is going to be pretty much taken up early 2025? I know I'm talking to you here like a few weeks before 2025.
I think 2025 is going to be film for me.
Lots and lots of film.
Of course, I'll never put the music away because that's part of who I am. But right now my main concentration, because I have this film in progress, is to get it done and then get it out there. And then I'll be able to move on to whatever the next thing may be.
I think now, I don't know, that has to be a little exciting because, I mean, you've been a part of films that have been released, but I guess, again, going back to that, you doing fresh things creatively, it's like, it's not like you releasing a new record or you being in a new, I guess, production, or you even just acting in a film. Like, this is your first time this is something you created that I feel like is all you front to back, you know, with Mary for the Block. That'll be interesting when it's released, like the gratification of that, because maybe it'll be different than releasing a new album or something, because you've never done that before. I mean, you've never released.
I'm certain it will be different, Anthony, because it's a whole world that's unbeknown to me. So I'm going to be finding out a lot about it next year. And thankfully, I have some people to help guide me through the swamp.
Well, very nice. I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see the new film, and it sounds like there's going to be more after that. You know, it's not one of those things where it's like, well, we'll see. Maybe I'll write something later. It sounds like
to get back to what you were just saying, one of the things that I have been thinking about in regards to the film and music is probably what I'm going to do after the film is finished and I figure out what turns out to be in the film. But it's all my original music except for a cover of one song that I can't let out the secret right now. But I'm thinking I'm probably going to have available for streaming or for download, like an EP of music from Mary for the Block. So,
oh, nice.
So that'll be something that'll be coming out.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited to see what you end up doing for the film. Is that interesting? What's that like playing? Because I assume you're writing the music after. I mean, you have a visual to go off of, I'm sure, when you're writing music for film. I mean, how different is that writing? Is it easier when you have something like that? Because I feel like that's like with jingles. Like, is it easier when you have something to jump off of where it's like, this is what it's about or this is what it's for, versus just out of thin air, let's write a song?
Well, besides the sound design for the film, I've selected a number of different songs from my career that I have written and recorded. So some of the music has been in existence already. And then there's also some new material that was recorded specifically for the movie. So it's a combination. There's no Femmes material, there's no 1913 material, but it's stuff from my own career as a musician and the records I've released.
You got more than enough to go through. You definitely have a back catalog. I feel like you can dig through to put on there.
Well, it was nice because I would think about a scene that I had written, and then right away I could go to my Rolodex in my mind and go, okay, what music would go behind this? And right away I had an idea. Then I would pick out the music on my computer, and then I would read the scene over the music, and then I would decide, oh yeah, I think that works.
I love that. I love how in-house it can be, just with all.
It's really in-house.
Do all this. It's all.
It's really in-house. No, let me tell you. Maybe I'm giving away too much about the film, but one thing that I really love about it is my daughter is in the film playing a role. Her young 5-year-old daughter is in the movie playing a role.
Oh, nice.
My brother Joe, who's 10 years younger than me, is playing my brother. And then my two cousins, Mark and Chris Fairbanks, are playing two roles in the film too. So in one scene, you have two sets of cousins. So yeah, there's a little nepotism going on, but I selected these people because they are actors. It's not just I want them in the movie. I knew that I could depend on them to give life to the text that I had written.
Well, very nice. I mean, I got to tell you, I was already excited to see it, but I think more of us talking about it, I'm intrigued to see this thing. And to know that it's all you too, to know that it's all Victor DeLorenzo, like this whole thing, like the ins and outs of it. We got Victor all over it. But let's for people who want to go check out the new Night Crickets record, where can we find that? Where can we I know where to find you, but where can we keep, track online so we can see when the new film comes out and more? Sounds like we'll have more eventually. Like, where should we send people for everything?
You can follow me on Instagram, and also I'm on X. So you can keep up on my comings and goings via those two sites. And then, as far as the specific dates and times and whatever, when things are going to start appearing, I'm not exactly sure right now.
It's best just to follow you. You'll see it all on there. If you follow Victor online, you'll stay connected with all that stuff.
Because I do keep my audience very well informed. And now see, this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. When I first came onto Twitter, now X, of course, I ran my site like a radio station, like it was my own private radio station. And so I could put out whatever I wanted, and I could critique things or make strange statements, whatever I wanted to do. I didn't feel like I had to adhere to any kind of a structure or a policy. And I still try to handle it that way. So if you look at my sites, sometimes you'll wonder, why is he saying that? Or what is the meaning of that picture? Or what have you? But, it just comes out of a diseased mind.
It's a diseased mind that I enjoy following. I like seeing what comes out of what. I can't tell you how happy that we have the visual element now. I can't tell you how happy this makes me. Now I know. Anytime I think of you like writing music or just sitting there writing, you're wearing that hat.
You're gonna see
the whole time you were writing "Mary for the Block," you had that hat on for 12 hours. You just sat there with that hat on, like you had the most serious look on your face, pondering, but you just have that hat on you. Just intensely, like the most intense pondering look on your face, and you just have that on your head.
Yeah, with steam coming out of my ears. Anthony, I'm sorry, I'm destroying your podcast.
No, you're not. This is great. This is my favorite kind of stuff.
To start the week, huh?
It's the best way.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while now. So I mean, it's
and I wanted to ask you in all seriousness, how is your dad doing?
He's doing better. He still has a few issues, but he is way better than the day that we were originally supposed to do this.
Wonderful. Good to hear.
So yeah, and he figured out some of his issues and stuff, but no, that is much, much better. I'm talking to you at a better time now.
Wonderful.
But no, and I appreciate you getting to for us to get to reschedule this and do this, because again, you're one of my favorite guests. I can't believe it's been as long as it has been. Yeah, I love having you on the show.
To hear that time frame.
And I don't know why, because you do stay. It's not like you have a lot of lulls. I mean, even last year, like you said, you were in a film and stuff. Like you always are doing things, if not playing shows, doing film, writing music. But yeah, it's been a minute. We won't wait this long for the next one. You'll have to come back sooner.
And in fact, of course, Anthony, when I get the film finished, then I'll send you something so you can look at it, and then it'd be nice to do another chat, and maybe I'll get the director on, and and maybe my daughter or one of the other actors or something. I mean, that might be fun. I would like to do something like that with you, because it seems like you're very interested in the film, so I'm happy to see that.
Oh, I'm very interested. And also, that's the nice thing is now that we're doing, that's how long it's been. Last time I talked to you, we were only doing phoners. Now we're doing the whole video interview thing. We talk to everybody everywhere. If we had 5 people on here right now, all of you could be all over the world, and we could still conduct a nice video interview.
Oh, yeah. And, hey, you know who just checked in here? Let me say hi to her for you. Janet just checked in.
Hey, friend of the show.
Let me see. Okay. Just 1 second.
Oh, you're fine.
I had to talk to her anyway about something. I want to see if she's coming over. We had to talk about something. Okay, I'm sorry. Just a second.
Oh no, you're good.
Okay. What else? Anything else?
Is there anything? I mean, we've talked new film, we've talked new music. I mean, any like other anything else on the new Night Crickets record or on Mary for the Block? Anything else to let people know before we close this out?
Well, we can talk about the brand new remastered version of Hallowed Ground that was just released.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that.
That's the second Violent Femmes record, which is the band's favorite. That's our favorite album.
Oh.
And I haven't, to tell you the truth, I haven't listened to it yet, the remastered version, but I'm sure it's really good. And I'm not sure what we're doing next in Violent Femmes land, but I'd have to say that the issue 2 that I'm not sure if you got a copy of it, but of the first album that came out, the box set.
I now get the box set.
That's really been doing really well, and I was very proud of that box set. And I thought, even though we nominated David Frick for liner notes for a Grammy, unfortunately he didn't get nominated, but I thought his liner notes were absolutely incredible. After having talked to the three of us, I think he really wrote something really wonderful.
How like, I mean, how much with those, you know, kind of as those albums get celebrated and repressed and everything, I mean, how vivid do you remember like recording them? I mean, does all that stuff come back to you pretty well, or is there any of it? Sometimes I talk to people and it's like, and understandably, listen, it was decades ago. Some people remember every bits and pieces, and then somebody like, it gets blurry over the years, including when you record more and more records.
Certain things I can remember very distinctly, but as far as all the different recording sessions for the Femmes, and I've gone through these things in my mind, I have trouble thinking about the whole thing as a complete entity. I can pick out little things that have happened here and there, but you know, it's probably just a matter of age, but also in regards to some of those Femmes records, I think maybe I tried to put some things out of my mind because some of those weren't made under the best of circumstances. So
with the
try to deal with it different ways.
I did want to ask too, I mean, as we're on that subject, because I've always heard of this, and I don't know that we've talked about it, but that pretty much wasn't Hollowed Ground and the first record, they were both written, because I've always heard the thing where you could have released Hollowed Ground before it, you guys chose to. So, I mean, like that whole part, I mean, do you still think that was like, I feel that was the right move, but as someone who was in the band, do you think that was still the right move to do? The debut record is the debut record and Hollowed Ground is the second? Or do you ever go, hey, that should have been the debut? Hollowed Ground should have been the first.
No. We had, like you had alluded to, Gordon had this magic notebook, and he had tons of lyrics and little chord structures and stuff like this. So when we were putting together some sets to play of original music, we just started going through his notebook and just started writing and arranging different things. When it came time to do the first album, we picked what we thought were the strongest songs that we had. And that's what made up the first album. But at the same time, yes, we did have a lot of those songs that turned up on Hallowed Ground. They were available, but some of them, I think maybe we decided, well, let's put that in the future category, and we'll work on that in the future. But right now, this collection of songs seems like it has a nice energy to it. So let's go with this.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing. When it came time to go do Hollowed Ground, I mean, we're not talking about 100% fully fleshed out, right? I mean, was there still writing or adding to them, or when it got time to record Hollowed Ground, those songs were pretty much like the structure and everything were good. So when you go to record, you just go to record, not a lot of writing in studio.
No, that's one of the things the Femmes prided ourselves on, is that when we went in, we were ready. You were
ready to go.
We did our homework. We were all set and ready to go. So sometimes maybe you would come up against a different idea because you're hearing it come back over the speakers, and you might say, well, maybe we should leave this part open here and put a solo in here, or, you know, so you leave it open so it is malleable. It's not everything's in stone when we go in, because then it wouldn't be fun. Then we've already made the record in our minds. Why do we have to go through the idea of recording it, right?
You like went through the fun stuff before you did it. You've already kind of had the fun in your head.
That's right.
How much? What was I was one more like with sequencing, because we were talking about sequencing earlier. That first record, I mean, do you remember that getting sequenced pretty easy? Because I say all the time that is one of the most perfect debut records. I feel like I wouldn't change a thing. I don't think I'd change the track listing. I don't know that I'd touch anything. I mean, do you remember much about the sequencing of it? Because that is one of the records I swear I talk about all the time.
I do. The sequencing on that record came down to Mark Van Hecke, the co-producer of the record with us, and myself. So we worked that out. I mean, I think we were all kind of in agreement what we wanted the first song to be, the first introduction of Violent Femmes to the world. And I think we made the right choice.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so. I think that was the wise move.
Right?
People seem to like that song, Victor.
I think so, yeah.
Oh no, I mean the sequencing on that, and that record, I love on the second one too. But the sequencing, just to me, I'm like, I just wouldn't change a thing. And then again, that goes back to my examples of sequencing is so important. And I don't think people think about that enough. Very important, the track listing. But yeah, I mean, anything else? We got some reissues from the Femmes. We got new Night Crickets. We got a new film coming out. Right. I mean, it never ends. It never ends. Am I missing anything else?
No, right now, that's, like I said, I'm pretty much concerned with the film right now, but these other plates are still spinning in the air. So, and something else might develop. I don't know, maybe Scorsese will call me and he wants me to be in his next movie. I don't know, but we'll see.
You never know. Maybe next time I'm talking to you, we'll be talking about you and your debut Scorsese film.
Yeah. I can tell you, though, nothing would make me happier than if I could continue my life as an actor right now. I think I've learned enough, and I'm at that point in my life where I could really do it. But I thought that 30 years ago, but whatever.
We'll see. I'm excited to see where film takes you. I'm always excited to see where you go next, Victor. And film is obviously where you're going next. Heck, the first time I talked to you, Night Crickets wasn't even a thing. And then the second time I talked to you, it had just that kind of started as a project. So yeah, every time I talk to you, you got something else going on.
Right.
But Victor, I mean, it's a blast talking to you. If you're listening to the radio show, since we are 3 hours, we're going to play some new Night Crickets now. If people are listening to the radio show, we'll play lots and lots of Night Crickets for them. If you're listening to the podcast, go grab that album. Go get that album now.
Anthony, would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
And will you play What the World I See Is Not the World I Want?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the last cut. And it features a famous actor's voice that we won't tell who it is, and maybe that can be a little quiz for your listeners.
Oh, on top of that, people should go follow Night Crickets on Instagram, because I've been enjoying watching all the videos of people. I've been really liking that, and you've gotten some cool names to do it. I won't say much else. Go follow Night Crickets, and you will see these videos on Instagram. But absolutely, no, we'll play that. We'll play a bunch of new songs. We'll play some stuff off the first record, and probably throughout your career, we'll play a bunch of stuff. Maybe play something off your solo record too.
All right, yeah. If you have, oh God, what is? I think that it's just the record Under My Own Name. There's some really good songs on there.
We'll play some of that. It's a nice, with a 3-hour radio show, we have time to do like go through your catalog. Yeah, exactly. Well, Victor, I mean, this is an absolute blast. Once again, new Night Crickets record out now. How It Ends, that is out now everywhere on Label 51 Recordings. And you got Victor currently working on Mary for the Block. I'm excited for that one to come out. And most importantly, we have the Creative Cap. And if you're ever wondering where all of Victor's secrets are kept, like where does this man get his all his ideas? It's under that cap. That's where he hides all the good ideas.
I'm sorry, I'm too silly today.
No, this is amazing. Well, until next time, we'll talk to Victor, I'm sure, sometime very soon. Before the Power Chord Hour, I'm Anthony Merchant.
Anthony, do you still have one more second?
Absolutely. We can go as long as you want.
Can you hold on 1 second? I'm sorry, I thought we wanted to add a little bit of the feminine mystique to our talk.
I would have easily talked to her more. Is there any? She's going
to come back and you can talk to her for a minute.
Okay. I will talk to her. Yeah, I would say we plug any 1913 stuff coming up too. If there's anything.
She just came over to have some coffee, and like I said, we had to discuss a few things. But no, in fact, I was hoping that she would get here before we ended our conversation, so she could say.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, when she comes back out, we'll have a little interview with her.
And she'll fill you in. She's got a lot of stuff going on too. In fact, ask her about this new single that she's coming out with. And I forget the fellow's name, but it's her collaboration with an Indian musician.
Oh, nice.
And she put it together back and forth through the internet with this guy in India, I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, we're definitely
you should ask her about it. It's really cool.
We're talking about that.
She's coming out right now. But, yeah, she's got a few things to discuss.
It'd be no problem. I had a blast last time we had both of you on. I had a really fun time talking drums and cello forever.
About your single with the Indian guy.
Oh,
so you should fill him in.
Yeah.
Fill him in on that.
Yeah. I can send you a preview if you want. It's a 23-minute Yeah, 23-minute piece. There's hundreds of cellos on it, and it's been engineered, mastered, and it's being released 12/22 of 24. So really soon, and it's called A Dream for Cello and Sitar. And it's a pandemic project, basically, that I'm finishing up. I had a little writer's block with it to endure, and this man Rampapana Bhattacharya is a prodigy in India, and I started watching his concerts, and then he started watching mine. I did like 5 or so, I called them shelter concerts, and just broadcasting through my living room. And I finally just asked if he'd want to collaborate on something, and it just took a little while for me because family circumstances. I lost my dad in that time, and just kind of, like I say, got a little bit of a writer's block. But I'm really glad it's finished, and it sounds great. I hope you like it.
Do you have any like name for the project, or is it just kind of under your solo? Is it just kind of a solo?
Yeah, I realized that as I was releasing it. I'm using TuneCore. I've been with them for 15 years or so. I don't have a name for the actual project, so it's just his name, my name. We are not using any images. It's like I made the cover art. It's very very brutalist, actually, and so we just want it to be about the music. And then I realized that I didn't have a name for the project, so I guess it's just our names at this point. Yeah.
You think not to like jump ahead a whole lot? You think is it kind of a one-off thing? You think, or could you see collaborating more? I mean, it sounds.
I can, if he can be patient enough to work with me, because, like I say, it took. Well, I always say this: things in the music industry take 3 times as long as you think they're going to take. So if you think it's going to take a year, it's going to take 3, and that's how long. True. That's how long it took. So if I would love to go there. It's a life dream of mine to go to India. So if I could go there with my looping pedal and my cello and put down, 100 loops, just a big drone in C major or whatever, I'd love to. And I hope that happens next year.
That'd be amazing. You definitely have to keep us posted on that. I would love to see that happen. That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
How about on the anything in the world in 1913? Recently,
yeah,
I feel like you have had stuff going on. Following you online, I feel like I've seen stuff lately.
Yeah. So Victor and I just are still really excited about our most recent and last performance. It was at the Vivarium in Milwaukee here, a new venue by the Pabst Theater Group. So a really reputable place, and they treated us very well. Great sound. Light show, and great, sound engineering for that show. It was really powerful and great. I stand up when I play cello now. That's something different. I'm also working with a new percussionist. And Victor is always going to be welcome, but I'm working with a female drummer now. Her name's Renee, and she subbed for Victor when he had some medical problems a year ago. And so we're just kind of going ahead that way, and Victor's okay with it. And like I say, he's able to record with us, do shows with us. But we're taking a more feminine approach on it now. And just Renee is a really good friend of mine, and Victor's also. So it's just kind of a natural progression that happened. And we're still talking about it. We did have those shows when she substituted for him. And then she really wanted to be the primary drummer. I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet. This 1913 is my, life project. And I love Victor. So it just kind of came, he's getting busier and busier with Night Crickets and being an actor again. And we're okay with it. It's a little awkward, but we're good. you know, and I think he'll still be on some recordings. We're probably still making music. We have a whole new band that is just me and him. That we haven't developed it much yet, but we have
Sing along.
It's called Sing Along.
Nice.
So that Victor can explore his amazing vocal capabilities and not tread on 1913 that way too much. Yes. But yeah, so
he's putting the hat back on. He's putting the creative hat back on. That's where he hides all the ideas.
Yeah, so I mean, 1913's it's primarily instrumental, and I just wasn't sure what we were recording for. I'm like, well, is this 1913 or can we just be in a whole new band together? And we're just confusing everyone with that, but so I'm playing banjo in it, so
really?
Really? Not all, and bass, so it opens up my creativity too, not just his. So
right,
Do you have much background on banjo, or is that have you picked that up for this? Like, what's your background band?
Tell about the banjo.
Well, I inherited a 1910 Vega Star. It's a 4-string tenor banjo, and the damn thing is tuned like a cello. So, it's just a natural, it's a little bigger of a scale for my left hand, but I can play Bach on it really fluently. And so I'm just going to work on that. It's in great shape. I'm afraid if I tune it any tighter, I mean, it's in tune, but just barely. If I tune it any tighter, I'm afraid something's going to snap because those strings have been on it probably since the 50s.
Geez.
But it is a 1910, and I also inherited a beautiful 57 Martin from my dad too. Oh, wow. So beautiful special guitar that is
gorgeous.
It's being repaired right now. It had a thing where all the 50 Martins, the pick guard shrinks and takes the guitar with it essentially. So. And Victor, I just got news. It's almost ready.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and they heat pressed the neck, fixed a couple cracks as a result of this the shrinkage of the tortoiseshell shrinks. But they were also able to save the original pickguard. That's one thing I didn't want. I didn't want it to change how it looked or anything, but collectors actually know about this problem with the guitars, and they expect it to be fixed if I ever want to sell it. It's still valuable. It's still original, so. And
that is awesome.
I've kind of been anti-guitar for a long time, but I'm also learning guitar. Because it would be foolish for me not to play such a beautiful instrument and let it go to waste.
Right.
So maybe maybe I'll play that too and sing along. Yeah. So.
I'm excited to see what is next for you two.
Yeah.
And with 1913, with the new, I'm excited to see what's up next for 1913 as well.
Yeah.
You got shows coming up and everything? It seems like lately you've been still playing and stuff.
Yeah, we have 2 shows lined up. One is unannounced, and I'm hoping Victor is going to be available for that. I haven't told him about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have one coming up January 11th at one of our favorite venues. It's called Anodyne. And one of my friends is coming up from Georgia. His name is Neal Lucas, Neal. And if you haven't heard him, he's really brilliant. He's Southern country rock, I guess. And he's a great singer-songwriter. And he's nervous about coming up in winter. So I said I have a really nice coat he can borrow and a place for him to stay. And the only thing I had officially lined up when I talked with him was this thing in mid-January. So he's going to drive up and try to do a gig in Nashville on the way up. And then on the way down also. So to make it worth it, I'm just going to donate my money towards his journey. So just to do the right thing. And it's great because this is I love my friends in Georgia. I lived there for several years and I made some lifelong friends. And now they're kind of coming up to me and I've wanted them to hear me also live, for a long time, because it has changed. When I met them, I wasn't looping, and I didn't have a drummer. And so one producer down there said, get a looping, because we made my first album is just cello loops, or cello layers. And I'm like, well, how am I ever going to pull this off live? And he said, I know, get a looping pedal and a drummer. And so one of my friends is the producer of my first album. And, so he's really excited to see this connection coming together between my Georgia life and my Wisconsin life. So, yeah.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
Where do you want to send? I follow you online. Where do we send people to follow you online? Where can we find 1913's music and everything? I know it's all out there in the world for people's enjoyment.
I'd say YouTube. And then, because I haven't really given Facebook permission to do stuff with my music. Like, I know that was a few years ago they wanted, they wanted to do that. But, so YouTube is a good source. All the streaming services you can think of. I pay for worldwide distribution to everything, so whatever their choices. Spotify, I believe, has us. Definitely Apple Music. I guess those are the primary ones, but it's in all those different online radio stores.
No, 1913, pretty easy to find and well worth going and checking out. And I mean, if people listen to the show, may have, or actually, if you haven't heard it, go back a couple of years and listen to me and Janet and Victor talking all about 1913. That was the last time, Victor, as we were just talking about, almost 3 years ago, we were doing the math. I don't know how it's been that long. That blows my mind.
Right.
January of 2022, I believe, was the last time you were both on, as we start to enter 2025.
Right. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, for both of you, I mean, Victor, you as well. We're closing this out here. We'll get into the music, but I mean, any closing remarks for the interviews, or anything else to throw on at the end of this, or shall we just go into the music?
I think go to the music.
Let the music do the talking.
Or have Janet say goodbye for us.
Are you playing something with the cello in it, or what?
Actually, I feel like this means we're going to start with some night crickets, but this obviously means we got to play some 1913 too. Obviously,
I'm on a whole bunch of the night crickets also. So.
Oh, that's right. That I forgot. We talked about that last time you were on here. I forgot you did have quite a bit of collaboration.
Yeah.
On that.
There'll
be lots of Janet all over this. 1913 and night crickets as well. Yeah, we'll play a bunch of it. So yeah, we'll get into that now for people. If you're listening to the podcast, it's over. Go find the music. But the radio show will play you a bunch of music because the show's still like another hour and a half. So we got lots and lots of time. But yeah, I mean, Janet, great talk to you. Victor, good to talk to you. And seeing that creative hat, that creative cap, getting to see that in person. I mean, I'll never forget that hat, Victor.
And Anthony, thank you for coming into the past office once again.
Well, we'll do it again, hopefully very soon. But let's get to some music. I'm Anthony Merchant, right here on the Power Chord Hour.